Here's my review of Adults. Honestly, I think that this was the funniest show, or at least is the funniest show of 2025 so far. Every single episode just had me laughing consistently. It was hilarious. This is a new satire show on FX. You can watch it on Hulu and Disney Plus, and it kind of reminded me a lot of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, like that kind of humor, but with more likable characters and very different characters, where we're following all of these mid-20s people, and we're basically trying to make it in the real world and live in New York, but it's really obvious that they still don't really know everything. And this show is just really funny. I mean, for the very first scene, if you've seen the show, then you know what I'm talking about. Like, what Issa does on the train. I can't show it, but it is hilarious. Like I said, if you've seen the movie, or if you've seen the show, you should know what it is. And it's that kind of humor. Like, gets very, really raunchy, but that's what makes it so funny. And a lot of these show is just them kind of getting into, like, each episode's kind of a little bit of a one-off episode of them just kind of doing these situations. For example, there's like an episode where they get called old. More specifically, Samir and Paul. And then they throw a party, and eventually they kind of just start letting these underage kids start drinking, and then they do it to be cool, and then they're like, yeah, we really should not do this. And just that whole scene is just hilarious. And it's a lot of that, of them, like, not really knowing what the right thing to do is because they're still quite young. And it's just hilarious. Like, it's the funniest show of the year for me. And then there's another episode where Anton and Paul are basically watching over this girl, and she's just a little demon child. She is just the worst. And that's just what makes it so funny, of them who clearly, and they're overly intentionally nice. Especially Anton, he kind of says how there's this one joke where it's like he just tries to be friends with everyone, where he's too nice. And then just seeing him try to de-escalate the situation for this little girl who's just so rude, and before he eventually just snaps. It's just hilarious. Like, this whole show is just hilarious. Especially this episode, though. Also, can we just talk about Charlie Cox here as Mr. Teacher? I mean, it's so great to see him. I mean, I love Daredevil. He's so great in that. And I just love seeing him in other things. I mean, he's really funny in this show, where he plays Billy's boyfriend. They start dating, and he's the teacher. And then there's this episode where he's, like, really high at this party. It's just hilarious. He's great. He's great in this. And then we find out, like, oh, he's actually, like, married, or like, not necessarily married, but he still calls his ex. They have to call his ex-girlfriend because he has problems with, like, getting high as, like, almost his guardian. It's hilarious. It's great. And there's another really funny episode where Billy, at the beginning of the episode, she notices she's having some problems, and then they have to go to the hospital, and then she needs a colonoscopy. And this whole episode is just hilarious. I mean, they also really explain how they don't really have health insurance, and kind of doing all these little tricks and stuff to get her to finally have it being done to her, to help her, is just hilarious to watch, because all these characters are just so funny and so over the top. And they're just so fun to be around, where they can do some bad things or very questionable things, but you know they have these good intentions, and at the end of the day, they're just so funny that you just love being around them. Also, it is really cool seeing Jack Nicholson's son in this show. He plays, like, this serial killer. And, I mean, I guess he's got it in his blood, I mean, because he's great in this. Ray is his name. Ray Nicholson. And he's great as playing this just really creepy guy. And even though he's only in it for one episode, he's hilarious. Like, this whole show is just hilarious. I loved it. And it's another thing where it's like, they're all so stressed out that they have this serial killer in this house, and they don't really know what to do. And you just feel this tension build. It's like tension, but not in a scary way, just a humorous way, because they're just freaking out. And it's just hilarious to watch. And then there's another really funny scene where Paul is in a gun shop And just this whole interaction between Paul and this guy and this owner, or at least the clerk here, is just gold. It is great. Just the back and forth. Where it's like, are you a fruitcake? And then it just keeps going. Paul is just kind of so stunned. It's hilarious. Like, just the over the top and just really just on the nose comedy is just perfect here. And this show can get very silly. I mean, just looking at this image. But that's what makes it so much fun. Like when they basically give this little, they do this little musical for the little demon girl. And it's great because you can tell they are trying to help, but they're kind of just, like, she doesn't really deserve it because she's just kind of awful. But in a way, you kind of see where she's coming from. It's a very funny scene. And although this is obviously very satirical, they really play into, especially with Anton, who's gay. He's basically the very over-the-top dramatic gay character, but he's just hilarious because of that. Every scene with Anton and Issa are probably my two favorite characters. They're both hilarious. But it's really just the chemistry between all of these characters that make it so much fun to watch. Like, they're so clueless in many ways, but they are so overly confident in themselves of knowing what to do. And they're like, oh, no, we know what to do. Especially when they have the party and do with all these kids and basically give them alcohol. And then they don't really realize it. And because they're like, oh, we're supervising. It's okay. We're cool now. So it's like you could tell they don't really know the right thing to do, which just makes it hilarious. But that's what makes the show just so good, is them just kind of trying to navigate through their life. It just makes it hilarious. But it's really just the over-the-top and satirical nature that just makes this so funny. Like Samir being very dumb, or what Issa does on the train intentionally backfires on her in episode 1. Basically, just she's basically being harassed by this guy, but she kind of just makes it worse for herself, and it's all done in such a overly just comedic and over-the-top way that just makes it hilarious. So yeah, I don't want to keep going on and on because I feel like I already am. But in conclusion, I think that the show is hilarious. I think that it's the funniest show of the year. It's definitely going to probably be in my top 5 shows of the year. And yeah, I just had a great time with the show. I thought it was hilarious. I loved the characters. I thought that it's charming and just such a fun show with such likable characters and just interesting characters. Where yes, they're satirical and over the top and almost caricatures. That's just what makes them so much fun. So yeah, in conclusion, I thought that this show was just great.